I'm going to show you how to do a twill weave, and in your packet it's on page 7. You want to start with just one thread, one string of yarn, and this one is just simple. It's just going to change your normal pattern. Rather than doing over, under, you're going to go under 1, over 2. Under 1, over 2, under 1, over 2. So it's really simple. The only time it gets even remotely complicated is when you switch rows and you have to figure out what you're going to do on the way back, because it's an odd number of threads that you're dealing with. So on the way back, you're going to have to go under 1 if you end with an over, and you can go under 1, over 2. That's pretty easy, but sometimes you end with the under and you have to think, am I going to go over 2 or am I going over 1? And it's not that hard once you get going, but sometimes you have to think for a second about which one you're going to do. So I will do a demo here, and if you get stuck in class, feel free to ask me or take a look at the pattern that they're using here, and if you replicate it, it should be pretty easy to go. Okay, so I have a thread here. I am going to fold over the end, put it through my needle, get my tail hanging there, and I am going to follow the pattern of under 1, over 2, under 1, over 2, under 1, over 2, and go all the way across. And over 2, and I'm going to end with under 1. So mine ends a little bit different than theirs because I end with the under 1. And I'm going to pull this all the way through. And it was catching on something, I had to pull that up. Okay. All the way to the end till you have your tail. And let your tail hang and push it up to the top. Make sure you're always getting your rows up to the very top. Okay, so since I ended with an under, and I'm going under 1, over 2, I am going to make sure I definitely go over on this one, and I am going to go over 1, and I think I will go under right away. So if I go under 1, then I have to go over 2. So I'm basically just going to start my pattern right away. So under 1, or sorry, over 1, and then start my pattern. Under 1, over 2. Under 1, over 2. So if you end like I do, where you went under 1 at the end, you could copy what I did, and that's going over 1, under 1, and then starting your pattern, which is under that 1, over 2, under 1, over 2, under 1. So it is a little bit weird right here if you ended with an under 1, but if you follow what I did, you should be okay. So it was over, under, and that basically starts you back from the beginning again, which is under 1, over 2. And I get that it might be a little confusing right there, but I think if you do a couple rows, you'll go, oh, I get it. If you need to rewind this and listen to that part again, I totally understand. It does take a little bit of practice. I myself had to pull out a couple rows the first time I tried this to see why it wasn't quite working, and then I figured it out. And I'm going to pull it all the way through, and I ended with an over 2, which is kind of perfect because then I can start right back at the beginning with an under 1. So pull it through, make sure that I get right, get that out of the way, next to my warp thread, but not too tight, and then shove them up to the top. So I ended with an over 2, which is perfect. So I'm just going to go under 1, over 2, under 1, over 2, and get all the way across. And basically I'm going to repeat exactly that same pattern I just did with those 2 threads, where I ended up with an under 1. So if you needed to listen to that part again, if you're doing the same pattern I am, I'm going to repeat it one more time. So I'm going to pull it all the way through. Careful with my warp thread there at the end. I don't want to pull it too tight. Get it right next to there, and then I'll push it up. Okay, so if I ended with an under 1, I'm going to go over that 1, under 1, and so I'm starting with my new pattern again. Under 1, over 2, under 1, over 2, under 1, over 2, and it brings me back to the start with ending with an over 2. And I'm just going to keep repeating that pattern over and over and over until I feel like I have enough, or until I run out of thread. And that's about it. And so the overall effect I will show you in just a second. Let me pull this one through. Just make sure this doesn't knot here right at the end. Oh, there we go, and push that up. Okay, so I'm starting to build my pattern, but what it will look like, and it's a little bit dark on this one, but what it will look like is you will get diagonal patterns. And I know the purple is pretty dark, so it's probably hard to see. But instead of rows that go vertically, like these ones, with our tabby weave and our basket weave, or even our vertical bars, this one runs with these vertical patterns, where the repeating rows go in a diagonal line. It's just kind of cool. But I picked a really dark thread for that one, so it's a little bit harder to see. And you can start to see it a little bit here, but I only have 3 rows. Whoops, sorry, let me get that down. But you can start to see it here, but I only have 3, so it's just starting to show up. And as I get more rows, it'll start to show up more. Okay, so that is your twill weave.